in 95 and 97, we had a chance to maybe have you play in some playoff games to help get us through.
Maybe some different results.
Some different results. We don't need to have to live with the past.
That was painful.
But what was it like, though? I mean, Marty Schottenheimer is someone that we met and we've talked to about this kind of towards the end of his life. And Marty was such a hands-on guy in everything that he did, but it seems like the quarterback position was always one that he maybe struggled with trying to find the right mix, the right balance, and maybe that also went with Carl Peterson and their relationship as well.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever really had the answer there. I mean, that's in a way. It's,
well, we did. His name was Rich Gannon.
No, but I'm saying, like, in a way, like, Marty won a lot of football games with a lot of different quarterbacks. I mean, you go back to Steve DeBerg and Joe Montana and Dave Craig and Steve Bono and Elvis Grbac, and they won a lot of football games with a lot of different quarterbacks, and that's not easy to do. So, I honestly, in all the years that I played, Marty Schottenheimer was the best head coach I ever played for. I mean, he was amazing. He could coach any position group. He could install the offensive plan, the defensive plan, the special teams plan. He's a great communicator, wonderful teacher. He believed in structure and discipline. I had the most fun playing with those teams in Kansas City. When I went to Oakland, it was a much different scenario, a much different situation, a lot less structure, a lot less discipline, and quite frankly, it was a lot more heartache just to try and work with that. But the thing that was frustrating for me is I felt like I gave us the best chance to win. Nothing against Steve Bono and Elvis Grbac. I thought, I was the best quarterback, and I never really got a chance to play. I really got a chance to play when those guys were hurt. Elvis got hurt for a while there.
Bono was really 3 interceptions
what was really disappointing was I think I went seven. We won. I played 7 or 8 of the last games. I think we won 7 or 8 of them. Yeah. 7 of the 8. And yet we get ready to play Denver, and he starts Elvis Grbac, and I knew Elvis wasn't ready to play.
We saw him in that Saints game. I think the last week of the season he came back and
the conditioning. His conditioning wasn't very good, and again, it's not his fault. I mean, he couldn't. He had some issues, and I just thought that you put a quarterback. Your job as a head coach is to put players in a position to have a chance to be successful. I think he put him out there. Elvis ran out of gas. We had to take some timeouts because he couldn't get the play out of it. He couldn't call the play. And we lost to a team that we were better than.
Yeah, and we beat just a few weeks before.
That team went on to win a Super Bowl, and honestly, our defense played well enough for us to win that game. We disappointed offensively. We didn't do anything offensively, and honestly, we were good enough offensively. We had the players to get that job done. What held us back was the quarterback position, and that's frustrating. The good news is the Chiefs no longer have that issue.
Yeah, exactly. Elvis went 7-2. Rich only lost 1 game down the stretch after Elvis went 7-2. And then there was this big controversy. Is it going to be Elvis? Is it going to be Rich? Who's going to start that playoff game? Elvis comes back and plays the last game in New Orleans. It's raining. He doesn't complete a pass to a receiver. He gets tackled. He falls on his left arm, which was the injured clavicle that he had. That's the reason he was out. And so there's even more question going into it. Man, was it just the weather, or it looks like we really need to go with Rich? But before that playoff game, they kind of sit down with Rich and Elvis and Marty, and they go through it. So we're going to take a look at that. Elvis versus Rich. Who should be the starter?
Elvis Grbac, our starting quarterback. And as long as we believe that the risk of re-injury is such that we can go ahead and get him out there and let him play, then that's what we're going to do. And the beauty of that, be it right or wrong, is you can always go back if he has a problem physically to Rich Gannon.
If you were Marty Schottenheimer and you had to make the decision as to who would play, who would you pick between you and Rich Gannon?
I would pick me. There's no doubt in my mind. A lot of people can make a case that Rich played really well, but that's just expected. And Marty just has a rule within his coaching style that a player doesn't lose his position as a starting player if he gets injured. And I think that's a smart thing to do.
He's our starting quarterback. He was our starting quarterback in the beginning of the season, and he rightfully so should be it now. Rich Gannon is our backup quarterback. We all respect him. We respect his talents and know that in any given time we have a starter playing a role of a backup quarterback, which is Rich Gannon.
I understand Marty's position. I understand the situation. Elvis was 7-2 as a starter. He got us off to a great start. He's played some great football, and I know if I was in the same situation, I'd want to get back in there as well. I don't think the offense will miss a beat regardless of who's in there. We're really playing well, and we got a good thing going. And when Elvis gets back, I'm sure it'll be as if he never left.
I know how he feels. I was in the same position when I was in San Francisco, and I know he feels frustrated. But Rich is a veteran guy, and he knows that if anything would happen to me, he can step in and do a job just like I would.
Rich Gannon at quarterback as Elvis Grbac continues his comeback with a broken collarbone. Gannon against the blitz, throwing long, reaching up, rises, got it, touchdown, Kansas City. Is Rich Gannon pumping? He's going to run it 10-5, touchdown, Kansas City, touchdown, Rich Gannon. Fade pattern, deep right, they want Lake Dawson, stretches out for the football, touchdown, Kansas City.
In your heart of hearts, you're sitting there watching the games and Rich is playing, and he wins 5 out of 6, and you've got to be happy for your team. But is there something that beacons inside that says, geez, this guy may take my job?
No, there was never a doubt in my mind that when I was healthy, that I'd be right back in there doing the things that I had to do. I have enough confidence in myself and my abilities, knowing that each play that he made, I would have made the same play. And I think it's the system that we have that puts a quarterback in a winning situation, because if you work with the system, you're going to play well. So it's just, the smart quarterback that prepares is always going to come out on top.
Okay, I know Andre Rison didn't really believe that, by the way. He told us that much on this show.
Well, let's go. Yeah, Glenn.
It's always hindsight. Remember, everything after that day is hindsight. So people will say, I love Andre or whatever. I'll tell you right now, understanding how that went down, it was the perfect storm to have a controversy, because everybody in the NFL up to that point believed a starter doesn't lose his job due to injury. Mm-hmm. And everybody believed at the same time you go with the person that got you to the dance. So that collided at that point, right then and there. A starter was back who was 7-2 versus the guy that brought you to the dance that was 5 of 6. Marty made a decision based on Marty. And, we can look at it no matter what we say or do. Remember, it's just like anthropology. Everything changes upon observation. It's easy to look back. Right now we say, well, that was a stupid move. And we can even say we were thinking that. But none of us actually remembers what the hell we were thinking at the time. Unless we wrote it down or we put it down somewhere. I certainly don't remember. I was just worried about my damn job. I was about what I was doing, who I was playing. I didn't even think about who was starting. And so I think this is one of those things that was, the game was over and it immediately became a controversy. And I think that had Elvis, if we'd won that game, controversies, there would be none. And, and what I loved about that whole video clip was Elvis said all the right things and Rich Gannon said all the right things. Who knows what would have happened? We're talking about it's a completely unknown situation. Had Gannon started the game.
Well, like you said, it's there was special teams mishaps in the game. Starting with me, on the one field goal that was made, got called back on a holding, and then I doinked it off the upright, which could have got us within 1 and put us in position at the end of the game to possibly kick another field goal to win it. It's just the way it unfolded, unfortunately.
The younger players like myself, Lake was having a pretty decent year. Like, it was transition, and Rich was, I ain't gonna say he was a younger guy. He probably was actually older than him. But it kind of had that feel where the younger guys were really starting to play a bigger part, and the veterans were saying, hey, listen, we don't want to mess this up because we may not get another opportunity. And we were a really veteran-laden team that year. And those guys had the mindset that, hey, and this is just my thought process, I don't know. Hey, we want to go with the guy that's getting it done now, that we know is getting it done, versus going back to the guy with the old adage that, like you were saying, Pete, where you don't lose your job from, getting injured. Or you said that, Louie. But I think that's what the uneasiness was in the locker room. And the younger guys, I'm just talking from my standpoint, we were like, it don't matter. We're going to be good enough. And we're going to do our job well enough that whoever's going to play the position will be successful.
Donnell made a valid point. Some guys we thought we was in a groove with Rich, and winning 5 out of 6, and we looking, decision made to bring Grbac, back as a starter. But as a player, we do understand that, So at the end of the day, I thought as a team that we will be able to overcome anything. Any one of those guys gives us a chance to win. So we just had to go out and play, and unfortunately, we just as a team didn't get it all done.
And that was also the case in '97 as well, playing the Denver Broncos. Now, we sat down with Marty Schottenheimer, and we had to bring it up with Marty. We said, Marty, Gannon or Grbac, whose decision was that? And Pat looked over at us and said, just ask Carl. So 2 years later, here you are. We're asking you, Carl, Gannon, Grbac, whose decision was that, and kind of what led up to that decision being made?
Well, the head coach makes the decisions on who plays. I mean, that's always been my edict. I mean, I have certainly the final say on the 53, but once those 53 are decided, and of course, I'm going to take the head coach's input and all our scouts and assistant coaches and that. But then once the season begins, he has the keys to the car. And Marty, I think reflecting back, he didn't want to make a change of the starter, and he really he told me frankly that he had experienced that when he was a player at Buffalo with the Bills, and he said it tore the locker room apart. That the starter, who had been the starter all year, then got hurt and now came back healthy, was not given the job back, and so he said he was going with Grbac. And Rich Gannon, as we all know, and he showed it later, was a terrific athlete, person, a quarterback, and did a great job when he went to those hated Raiders. But, I felt bad for Rich. I felt bad for everybody. I felt bad for the entire team. But again, that's just something that happens, and you make those decisions, and then hindsight is always 20/20.
Mm-hmm.